I never really used to use Ember unless I was doing low-level extermination missions because she just doesn't do a lot of damage to anything. There were a lot of really nice builds for her that you could use in higher level missions, but nothing that any other frame couldn't do a lot better with much less effort. Recently with her rework, I've been in love, having so much fun playing her, and it honestly feels like I'm playing a completely different frame, which is definitely a very good thing. And of course, the rework is not perfect, but I think it's definitely pretty amazing, so today I want to talk about her rework and how well the new Ember works in endgame content. I haven't had much time to play Warframe recently since I've had a lot to do. I just started a new job, so I've had to focus on just one thing at a time. So I'm not going to be talking about liches or any of the other real things in the update yet. I may be able to later, but as of right now, I feel like when I get to it, it'll just have been talked about too much. So today I want to talk about something that's pretty important to me, and this Ember rework is pretty important because I've really enjoyed playing her, it's just that she's never really even been that good. So let's start with talking about abilities. First, we're going to start by talking about Ember's passive ability. That passive is that Ember gains 5% extra ability strength for every enemy burning with an active heat status within a 50-meter radius. This is a very, very big bonus that can stack very high, and also you don't have to be using your abilities to get the bonus. So you can just use a heat gun like the Ignis, light everything on fire, and that counts. Now let's talk about Ember's actual abilities. The first ability she has is Fireball. This hasn't changed at all other than that now you can charge it for increased damage. Ember's second ability, Immolation, is a damage reduction buff that is very nice for staying alive. It starts at a 40% damage reduction, and with mods you can get it to 50 to 90%, which is absolutely incredible, and it's very strong when paired with even more armor. And the best part about this is that whenever you activate it, it actually doesn't use energy until it's maxed out. To get the actual bar to move up, what you have to do is you either just have to wait and it moves up very slowly, or you just cast Fireball, which makes it go up even faster. Ember's third ability is still Fire Blast, which is pretty much what it used to be, but it has a few tweaks to it. Whenever you actually use it, it drains what you have on Immolation. So if you're at 72%, it goes back to 50%. And the more it uses, the more armor that it strips off of enemies. If Immolation is maxed out, this completely strips all armor, so it's going to be very, very important later on. Ember's new fourth ability is Inferno, which sends down a meteor that burns enemies over time. This ability is amazing when paired with everything else that our new kit has to offer, and the best part about it is that this ability only consumes energy on enemies that you actually hit. So rather than having a cost to cast, it's only whenever enemies are actually there, so you can spam it with no enemies near you and just thrust your body into the air, so it's a pretty good time waster in between rounds or while at extraction waiting for everyone else to get there. Inferno also spreads fire damage to any nearby enemy until the duration of your ability is up. So this can be used to just spread your damage and deal a lot more over time. To be as efficient as possible, you have to use every ability that Ember has to offer, especially in higher level endgame content. You start with using Immolation and max it out as quick as you can with Fireball, and then you follow that up with Fire Blast and then Inferno. This incinerates everything around you since the enemies won't have armor, but that also does mean that you really don't have to worry about even using your 4 in the first place unless you want pretty good ad clear, because whenever they don't have armor, you can just shred them with whatever gun you have. This opens up a lot of possibilities for weapons to use. This just adds so much more freedom to her because you're not limited by having to run a corrosive weapon. In higher level content, corrosive is just so nice for stripping armor, but with this, you don't have to worry about anything like that. I absolutely love it. That's pretty much it when it comes to her new abilities and playing her, but there's still quite a bit more to talk about, so now let's talk about some of Ember's new augments. Of course, with a new rework on abilities, the augments need to be tweaked to follow along with that, and this is honestly where a few of my issues come out, but there really aren't that many. The first augment that she has is for Fireball, and it's just fine. It's not overpowered, it's not weak, it's pretty balanced actually, and that is simply whenever you hold the ability, you actually cast a buff around you that gives all of your teammates 100% fire damage for 40 seconds. This is pretty decent if you want to use fire damage, but to be fair, you of course have to have teammates that are using fire damage in the first place, or teammates that would want fire damage. The second augment that Ember has now is Immolated Radiant. Allies within affinity range receive 50% of your current immolation resistance. So if you're at 50%, they get 25% resistance and so on, and this is again very good. The range is fantastic on this because affinity range is pretty dang big, so whenever it comes to any defense mission, everyone's probably going to be in that radius because you don't really need to run around that much in defense. The next augment she has is where I start to have one issue, and that augment is Healing Flame. Each enemy hit by Fire Blast heals you for 25 to 50 depending on the immolation level. Don't get me wrong, this is a great augment. It's very good for healing. It makes it so you don't need to run Life Strike on one of your melee weapons if you're doing that. This can easily replace that. But the issue is that to me, and again, this is totally an opinion, so you may not have the same thought, Augment should be something that specifically buffs one ability, and it shouldn't buff or rely on anything else. So in this case, it shouldn't rely on immolation to be higher, it should just give a static amount of health, and that should be altered by how much strength you have. And I believe it is, of course, because immolation can be buffed by strength, so I assume it is altered by strength. I just think that Augment should buff one ability directly and not rely on any others. Of course, you can have totally different opinions, and that's fine. That's just what I think. Finally, we have her fourth augment, which is Exothermic, an Inferno augment that makes enemies killed under the effects of Inferno have a 15% chance to drop an energy orb. This is good if the enemies you are killing die quickly by like one cast of the ability, but in high level content you usually have to use Inferno once or twice to actually kill an enemy, but of course it is under the effect, so you can just activate it and then down them with your gun and you have that 15% chance. So it is a decent augment in that sense. Instead of running this augment, what you can do is run Healing Flame and Rage, any of the Rage mods, the Hunter Rage or the normal Rage, and whenever you take damage, you get your energy back, and then whenever you're low, just hit your Fire Blast and heal yourself. To me, this augment doesn't really make sense because you could run a completely different build that is much more viable and just kind of makes it so this is an obsolete mod. You don't really need it. And this is the main augment that I don't really think is that good. I really hope there is a change to it in the future. In its current state, I think this mod is decent. I just really want to see it be a lot better because when it comes to ultimate ability augments, so I don't really know what should happen to the augment. If you guys have any ideas, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys can think of. Simply even just increasing the chance to say 25%, that would be great. That would actually make this very, very good, I think. Of course, I'm not a person that goes into all of that stuff. I don't really know how to properly change augments, so I'm not really going to try and push that out anyway. So those are all of her augments, which are all very decent, and actually for the most part they're pretty good, but definitely I think they could use some work. Now let's just talk about my opinion on the entire rework. To put it very simply, I love it. I think this is a great step in the right direction going forward for reworks, and I really hope that this is what they do in the future. Of course, right now I don't have a perfect build for Ember, but so far I have found one that I like a lot, which is that it's really high strength and duration, so I can maximize the damage over time. Of course, there are going to be many different ways to build her, but everyone's going to have a completely different opinion on what they think is the best, because that's the point of this game. It's to find your own way to play because there's so many options out there. This rework just makes her so good in endgame content too, like arbitrations, you can just strip all the armor off of everything and then melt them, and of course there are definitely better frames out there for that, but this is definitely good because now she can actually be viable out there, and she never used to be viable in endgame content unless you were just using something like maybe knocking everything down and then shredding them with whatever gun you have, which again, that's pretty decent too, but now it's just so much easier to do that. I think my favorite thing about this entire rework though is how Immolation and Inferno don't instantly start draining energy unless it's actively, you know, say in Immolation, it doesn't drain until it's maxed out. Inferno, it only drains energy whenever you actually damage an enemy, which this is just great, and I think it's a perfect step in the right direction. I haven't gotten to play with Vauban yet because I don't really play him that much, but I'm definitely going to give him a try after this because feeling Ember now, I just can't wait to see how he feels. I know I'm not going to make a video on him since I never really played him before, so I don't have much of an opinion already formed, so if I was talking about him, it would just strictly be, you know, my opinion on how he feels now. That's it for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to like my video to support what I'm doing, and if you want to join my parliament, which is the only real one on YouTube, every other one, if there even is one, is just fake, you just hit that subscribe button down below and hit the bell to get notified when I upload a video. Also, for an update for anyone who saw my last video, I do have a new job, and it's going to be working at a place that I actually enjoy shopping at, and a place that I know a lot of my friends work at and really enjoy it, so I'll be posting a lot more now that I'm not stressed about finding a new job. And I do have some other videos that I want to re-upload. I think I've uploaded like 2 or 3 videos now that I've taken down because I rushed them, so I didn't get the message across that I really wanted. I know my last video, I just jumped everywhere, so that's going to be coming back up. It's going to be tweaked a lot. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you all for the support on those videos that I had earlier, though. Again, I'm going to be tweaking them and having them back up. So thank you all for the support. I love everyone that actually does support me, and I love everyone that's just watching my content. Other than that, I hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace out.